Hello, my name is Jessica from the Macau Institute for Tourism Studies. My colleague, Ms. Ga Yi Ip, and I will be discussing about dual mode teaching, challenges and opportunities for ELT teachers. Before I start, I'd like to give a brief introduction about our research by letting you know the background of our study. So, COVID has had an overwhelming impact and has pushed for many changes in all aspects in life, with education included. When it first started, Macau, a special administrative region of China, has gone into complete lockdown, and only tertiary institutions in Macau went into the online teaching mode during the first half of 2020. Once the city was free from new cases of COVID, classes were then resumed for local students during the second half of 2020, which was in August. In order to cope with the demands, our institution has decided to also hold lessons for non-local students. Since these students are not allowed to travel to Macau due to travel ban, we have started to offer lessons face-to-face and online at the very same time. Running a class with students both on campus and online is what is being referred to in our study as dual mode teaching. With two groups of students to cater for, classroom management, interaction, and the way students get assessed and get their feedback has become problematic. As a result, we have decided to take this opportunity to look into the following aspects in the ELT classroom. First, we wanted to find out what were the major challenges. Second, the obstacle encountered by the teachers and possible solutions. Next, the ways to maintain interaction in a dual mode classroom. And finally, we wanted to know whether the teachers believe there's a future for dual mode teaching. Before getting into the results of our study, I'd like to go over the lit review, which focuses on teachers' role, classroom management, and the use of ICT. First, according to Larson Freeman, the teacher's role is to set up tasks, facilitate, and provide students with the opportunity to learn and interact with each other. Aside from that, the teacher is also seen as the learner, facilitator, assessor, manager, and evaluator. When teaching in English, an English teacher needs to multitask. This includes things such as designing assessments which match the course objective, helping students in the learning process. The teacher also needs to manage the class and fairly evaluate students' performance during the lesson. One of the most important aspects for a teacher is to learn to adapt to changes and adjust the online teaching methodology accordingly. With so many things to take into account, the need for teachers to balance their roles has become a constant barrier. Within these barriers, one of the most crucial ones is the difficulty in time management and remembering of time to implement intervention. Most teachers would agree that classroom management is one of the foundations of effective teaching. As a result, Brown and Lee pointed out that in order to establish effective language teaching, the principles of classroom management have to be followed. Some of these principles include things such as flexibility, having clear goals for both students and teachers, challenging both stronger and weaker students, allowing for a certain degree of student autonomy, having an open mind to students' ideas, being passionate and positive towards teaching. It has been found by Fowler and Serapli that effective classroom management is highly correlated with teachers' enthusiasm and confidence. However, it is worth mentioning that it is currently a bit unclear whether online students can feel the teacher's enthusiasm. Moreover, Islam has noted that effective classroom management can better students' learning experience, and that by including online students, the challenges of classroom management has increased the difficulty of managing a class that is already complex enough without the online students. In order to have greater interaction between teacher and students, and between students and students, rapport needs to be established. Ma stated that group discussions, simulation of a certain environment, and role play can improve interaction within the classroom, as this can foster communication. There is no doubt that classroom management is important, but the usage of ICT can also bring many benefits to the ELT classroom by increasing learning resources, offering contextualized lessons, and promoting learners' autonomy. Yang, Wen, and Chi feel that ICT will become the mainstream in ELT classroom. So classrooms should therefore be properly equipped to handle such demands. Furthermore, it is also highly important to have teachers trained in ICT skills and to be acceptive of new technologies as to make sure things can go smoothly during lessons. Alcide and Pathin have further noted that ICT can provide on-campus students with a channel of communication with online students, thus giving them a more active role in learning and interacting in the target language. But then, of course, this means that teaching, planning, and assessment needs to be considered as a whole as to achieve optimal effectiveness. The last advantage of ICT in the ELT classroom appears to be the improvement in students' writing skills. Having said that, it seems that stronger students are the ones who are able to benefit from it a bit more compared to weaker students. So after having a look at teachers' role, classroom management, and the use of ICT, I'd like to go further into our study and talk about our research methodology. For our research, we have adopted an exploratory, qualitative approach by conducting semi-structured in-depth interviews with 6 ELT teachers with experience in dual mode teaching. Content analysis was then used to analyze our data. The results obtained in our study were broken down into 7 themes, which include challenges, added pressure, teacher's focus, rapport and interaction, grading, anonymity, and finally the future of dual mode teaching. First, there were a number of challenges found in the ELT classroom. Most teachers were concerned with students' learning quality and experience, assessment management, online student engagement, time management, which include aspects such as setting up the IT, offering extra explanations to students on Zoom, and also letting them know where they can find certain teaching materials, and material preparation itself. Some other challenges include difficulty in having on-campus students interact with online students. Furthermore, teachers have also pointed out that traditional classroom teaching was not fully applicable during dual mode, and that they were either unable to check online students' understanding or they couldn't check it as much as they wanted to compared to face-to-face students. Some final concerns were those of internet connection, students faking their attendance, and the possibility to cheat on exams and assignments. Second, With a number of challenges faced by teachers, most have added pressure since they need to put more time and effort into lesson and assessment planning. They also felt that the assessments appear to have become more difficult than it would have been if the assessment were run in class, and that there's also the feeling of running two classes at the same time when they have face-to-face students and students on Zoom. Finally, teachers were also worried that they were neglecting the online students since there's only a handful of them. Their highest focus was then, of course, on the students who were actually attending in class. Third, this will then bring us to the problem of teacher focus, where most of them felt that they have not paid equal attention to on-campus and online students. Some teachers have said that I don't pay equal attention to the online students. I was worried that I may not give too much attention. I usually go near students to talk to them, but I was worried that if I do not do that, I may leave out the student online, or I may forget a student is online. Things like that. Fourth, when it comes to rapport and interaction, some teachers do not expect Zoom students to interact the same way as face-to-face students, as the dynamic is completely different. When it comes to interaction, students' initiative to communicate is extremely important, but this can be relatively difficult when students mute themselves during the entire class time and do not turn on their cameras. Also, having a classroom with a fixed camera setting where the online student does not get to see the teacher once he or she walks away is also another problem. Another difficulty encountered is to have a student in class work with a student on Zoom, and other apps such as WeChat or WhatsApp were instead preferred. The breakout room function for online student also does not appear to work well, as online students tend to stay quiet. So things like Mentimeter, Kahoot, Padlet are used to increase student interaction during class time, as on-campus students and online students can participate at the same time. Then, in regards to grading, some teachers feel that participation should be graded while others don't. Teachers feel that if all students are graded, then it can motivate everyone to participate and feel they are part of the class. But grading should not be a numerical value. Instead, it should be from something like a high pass to a fail. As mentioned, some teachers believe that participation should not be graded because they feel that online students are already having a tough time on their own, and that they may not necessarily share their difficulties that they're experiencing with the teacher. In addition to that, if they are also, so to speak, forced to participate in class, it might also give them added pressure, which may not really improve their ability to learn. One thing that the teachers have noticed is that students appear to be more active if they are able to remain anonymous. So things like Mentimeter, Kahoot, and Padlet, which were previously mentioned, seem to encourage in-class participation as they are able to remain anonymous during the entire process. Aside from that, freezing the screen also appears to give online students more confidence to interact with the teacher. Finally, this then brings me to the last theme of our study, the future of dual mode. The majority feels that there's a future, and that it's just a matter of getting used to. In addition, dual mode will be much better developed, and it's likely that it's not going to be in the same form it is now, and it can offer endless possibilities for students and teachers. An important thing that one teacher has mentioned is that dual mode is very doable as long as teachers are able to accept that online students may not interact the same way as face-to-face students. After looking at the results of our study, we'd like to look at some possible solutions that could potentially improve dual mode teaching. These include ICT training for teachers, update classroom equipment, try different ways to encourage student participation, create repositories of materials, and invest in programs which could help student engagement. And at last, if a class has an online student, it might be a good idea to arrange it in a way that there are at least 2 of them to minimize the feeling of aloneness and to make it possible for discussion for the students who are actually online. Some limitations of our study includes sample size. So in the future, it would be possible to include more teachers and also teachers from multiple institutions to see whether they are experiencing any similarities or differences. It may also be worthwhile to look at student perspective to gain a better understanding and to learn what they